Welcome to the video, my precious princesses, my wonderful knights, and fabulous beings. Today I will be reading a Danganronpa fanfiction by Hope 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 Hope. If you would like to read this story for yourself, I shall leave a link in the description below. You are the ultimate psychiatrist. No one knows how such a young person became a psychiatrist. Long studies are required to get this job, but you were only 17 years old. I guess that's why you were an ultimate. You always thought that human brains were particularly interesting, especially dysfunctional brains. Some people saw you as cold-hearted and sadistic person, because you were always extremely glad to meet people with mental diseases. You really didn't think of their feelings or problems they could have because of that. Your job was simply to listen to them and give them medicine. You wouldn't be a good psychiatrist if your feelings got involved with your work. All those people who were seeing things that didn't exist, hearing voices that didn't exist either, having violent mood swings, spending their days crying in their bed and thinking about how pathetic their life were, or even those who wished to end their own lives. That was so fascinating. Humans were the only ones who could get that dysfunctional, and you adored it. So of course, when you found yourself locked up in a dark place full of talented people, you were more than happy. You did realize that you could die, but you didn't really care. You didn't value your life that much. All of these people were so interesting, so different than regular people. They all had their very own personality, their very own way of thinking, even their own very different clothing styles. Some of them were terrified at the thought of a killing game. Some of them were intrigued. Some of them didn't seem to care, and some of them were revolted. Obviously, you were in the intrigue category. Maybe even in the super hyped category, actually. You had already analyzed every single person in this place, and easily guessed who was going to die and who was going to kill. Recognizing deranged people was your talent, after all. Your only talent. There were just two people that you found pretty shady. A long blue-haired girl who seemed to have something important to hide, and a tall, slim man covering his mouth and nose with a mask. He didn't show much emotion, so it was hard to find out what kind of person he was. The only thing you were sure of was that he obviously was fascinated by humans as well, maybe even more than you were. But you preferred not to talk to him though, since you couldn't guess if he was going to be killed, going to kill somebody, or going to survive. You would rather stay away from any potential killer. It's better to observe them from far away. While almost everyone else was spending their time getting to know each other, you preferred to inspect the place. Chit-chatting wasn't really your thing. The hallways were dark and surprisingly filled with plants and grass. You didn't see many people there. That was until you arrived at a much larger place with a better lighting. You supposed it was the center of this academy, or something like that. There was this blonde-haired musician that was, according to your memory, named Kaede. This boy who has the voice of a girl with evolving hormones named Saihara. And the tall, mysterious guy wearing his mask. You tried to walk past them without anyone noticing you, but the girl did notice you anyway, sadly. Hey, I don't think we've met yet. I'm Akamatsu Kaede, the ultimate pianist. Nice to meet you, she said as she ran up to you, a shy smile on her pale face. You blinked a few times before sighing internally. You gave your name, and told her what your ultimate was, with a bored tone, blankly staring at the girl in front of you. Ah, that's nice. I hope we'll get along, she awkwardly said, looking at you expectantly. You narrowed your eyes and shrugged. I won't have the time to become your friend. You'll leave too soon. You turned away from her, leaving a surprised Kaede and a disturbed Saihara behind you. Before you could finally leave, you heard another voice talking to you. Looks like today wasn't your lucky day. May I ask, what did you mean by, you'll leave too soon? The low voice asked as you guessed it was the masked guy's voice. You turned around to face him. She will die, you stated, nodding confidently. The taller boy chuckled in a peculiar way before replying. How could a psychiatrist know such a thing, I wonder? You supposed he heard you introducing yourself to Kaede earlier. My job is to know people, so I can guess if they're dysfunctional or not. I'm not 100% sure she will die, but I'm just making an assumption. People who can possibly get killed in this kind of unusual situation have a certain way of behaving, you explained, a small smile forming on your lips. You really enjoyed talking about your talent. The male's green eyes widened for a second before tuning back to their normal size. My job is to know people too, strangely enough. My name is Shinguchi Korekio, and I am the ultimate anthropologist. You gasped slightly, your smile growing bigger. Anthropologist? That's really nice. You must know so many things about humans, you mumbled in awe, already feeling fascinated by this person. He chuckled once again, and you could have swore he smiled under that mask of his. I wouldn't mind sharing my knowledge about humanity with you one day. You nodded excitedly, a determined look on your face. You were craving for this kind of knowledge. The first corpse was found, and the first murderer was being executed. At this exact moment, you knew Kaede was innocent. You would have immediately seen it if she really was the killer. But you couldn't do anything against her execution anyway, and you didn't really mind seeing her die. It was brutal, of course, but you didn't personally know her, and you were enjoying looking at her horrified expressions. You wondered, what kind of thoughts must be going through her head at this exact moment? Was she even able to think? Or was she too panicked? Shinguchi Korekio noticed you smiling widely during Kaede's execution. It was a cold, cruel grin, but it was also a genuinely happy grin. He was stupefied. How could anyone be that happy while seeing someone die? He wanted to know what was going on in your head. He has seen so many humans, he knows them better than anyone else. He is an ultimate, after all. But you, there was something different. It was like you loved dysfunctional humans too much. Like it was consuming you. He was completely, totally, and entirely amazed. The only other truly unique person he has ever known was his deceased sister. His dear, precious deceased sister. He was so attached to her. She really was one of a kind. Maybe meeting you wasn't a coincidence. Maybe you were made to fill the emptiness his sister created. Maybe he was just thinking too much. But you really are one of a kind too. He hasn't seen anyone else like you. You found yourself lying on the floor, right in the middle of one of those dark hallways that were often empty. You couldn't stop thinking about the ultimate pianist's execution, and about the future executions. How are they going to be? What do the people who are being executed think? What do they feel? Are they still sane while they're dying? You sure do have a peculiar train of thought, don't you? A familiar masculine voice asked, waking you up from your thoughts. Huh? You sat on the ground and looked up, not surprised to see Korekiyo standing in front of you. He chuckled. You were talking out loud. I did not know that a person could be so interested in a dying person's thoughts. You giggled sheepishly, scratching the back of your neck. Aren't you creeped out or something? I mean, I did say some strange things. I know what it's like to be honestly passionate by something. I do not find it creepy. Also, you remind me of someone I knew. I think you're quite an interesting person, in fact, he explained, staring at you with his bright green orbs. Your cheeks turned lightly pink. Ah, well, I am an interesting person after all. He laughed once again and held his hand out to you, so you could stand up. You hesitantly grabbed his hand and brushed away the dust from your clothes with your free hand after you stood up. Do you still want me to tell you about humanity? Korekiyo asked, his gloved hand holding yours. You could almost feel sparkles appearing in your eyes as you nodded vigorously, your grip on his hand tightening. He smiled under his mask and added, Oh, and do you mind if I test something? You tilted your head to the right. Depends. What are you? The long-haired boy interrupted you by placing a kiss on your cheek. His mask still covering the lower part of his face, he calmly pulled away, looking at you with the same inexpressive eyes. Your eyes were wide open and your eyebrows furrowed in confusion. I do not understand this. A low chuckle escaped his lips as he turned his back to you. As I mentioned earlier, I was simply testing something. You don't have to understand anything. He slowly started to walk away, leaving you perturbed. This guy, you really couldn't understand him, even though you were supposed to understand everyone. That was your talent. Just as you were about to lay back down on the floor and think about what happened, you heard Korekiyo's voice echoing through the hallway. You wanted me to tell you everything about humans, right? So why are you still not following me? You widened your eyes and ran to him as fast as you could. Okay, sorry, I'm coming. Let's say that your personality changed a lot when someone talked about something that interested you, and humans interested you a lot. Especially if the one talking to you about the humans was the ultimate anthropologist. When you finally arrived next to him, you slightly tapped on his shoulder and breathed heavily from running that fast. You didn't like sport much. But what were you testing earlier? You curiously asked him, narrowing your eyes in suspicion. He looked down at you, since you were much shorter, and gave you a small smile. Apparently, humans get embarrassed when the person they like in a romantic way have any form of physical contact with them. I just wanted to test this theory with you, he calmly said, letting out a chuckle at the end of his sentence. Ah, I see, you nodded, finally understanding. But your expression rapidly changed as you understood what he meant. But wait, you tested me because you think I like you in a romantic way? You exclaimed, feeling the heat coming up to your cheeks. He chuckled once more. I never said you were the one being tested. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed your time here, please be sure to like the video. If you would care to hear more, please consider subscribing. And farewell for now, my loves.